I want to welcome you. This is, without a doubt, one of our more favorite events because we get to hear a little bit about what's going on, not only within our city, but within our county. And so we have, just so all of you know, and you can rest assured, we've told Owen that we're going to cut him off at 20 minutes. So that gives us plenty of time to have questions and answers, and also gives us time to hear from our mayor. So I don't want to take any of their time up. So I'm going to go on and just kick it off, and I'm going to throw it over to our Judge Executive, Mason County Judge Executive, Owen McNeill.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming out on a beautiful, sunshiny, warm day.
Nice day for ducks.
Nice day for ducks. Nice lunch. I want to thank Shay. I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce, the board, for a fantastic annual event that we always look forward to every year. And so, you know, on behalf of the county, the state of the community is pretty firm. It's an interesting concept when local governments are showing up every day, going to work, doing their job, and being successful. It would be very handy if our federal partners would do that as well.
Amen.
I'm not very good at these presented speeches, and Rod kind of made that comment. I always go over, and I always kind of say random things that a lot of times give me in trouble. But I'll try and break it up and highlight. For a community, for a county of our size, 17,000, 18,000, we have been incredibly successful over the last year, certainly over the last 5 years, in not only activity, but new investment across the board. From everything, and across the community, you can find evidence of that success. But certainly over the last year to year and a half, what I have been most proud of, and I try and highlight every chance that I get, has been the fiscal responsibility that we have undertaken in Mason County. Now, my good friend Judge Peffer passed. I was appointed, and for a position such as County Judge Executive, it takes 6 months to 8 months to even know which way is up. It took me almost a year and a half. That's kind of how slow I am. But ultimately, I came to the conclusion that our reserves, our county savings amount, was way too low for a population our size, 17,000, 18,000 people. And at one point, now 3+ years ago, we were tracking $20,000, $25,000, and several sleepless nights thinking about making payroll, things like that. Since then, we have tightened our belts. We are scrounging, trading, anything and everything we can do, and have got that north of $2.4, $2.5 million in the form of a reserve, our county savings account. Now, what that means for citizens and constituents, it certainly means a much more nimble county government. It means the availability of more opportunity by having a much more healthy balance sheet. While that sounds much better than it was, again, for a county our size, that's still not a lot, but at least we're going in the right direction. The main reason I bring that up is it certainly hasn't been, it's been a little bit of me and a little bit of our commissioners, but for the most part it has been our employees who have not only sacrificed but scrounged. I tell this joke all the time. We traded a county truck fleet with the state of Kentucky for less than $100,000 and got 7 new to us dump trucks here in Mason County through the state surplus program about 2 years ago. And things like that, innovative thoughts like that, our employees stretching every dollar, every tax dollar, every dollar that we as citizens have put in really means a lot. And I am excited about the trajectory that our county is taking. City Manager Wallingford and I talk every day. The expenses, just like your own expenses and household expenses, the expenses for municipalities, for counties, for local governments, and even states are going up every day. Costs include paving, including even diesel, your payroll. They're increasing every day. With that, over the last now three and a half years, we are tracking certainly less and less support from a state and federal level, as the old saying, everything rolls downhill. And so we are certainly trying to stay in front of things. I also want to make a point to highlight. And one last point on that too. Our reserves, we also made a point to codify those reserves. Now, as local leadership, while you always hope for additional terms, I guess, you never want to handcuff future administrations. And so that's a delicate process. However, we codified with a resolution in Mason County to target minimum reserves as at least an alarm for future administrations to never get back in that position that we found ourselves in previous years. There is no reason why a local municipality or a local county government, should worry or spend sleepless nights about payroll. I'd also be remiss without highlighting our sheriff's department and of course other divisions, but specifically our sheriff's department. Sheriff Swolsky, Chief Deputy Colton, and our team have faced some significant events, significant barriers, certainly in his limited tenure since being appointed, from loose heathens from southern Ohio that make it across. It's just unbelievable. We were talking the other day some of the things that have popped up. Mason County Sheriff's Department is doing a fantastic job going forward. We are trying to highlight that with our pay and pay across the board on our lower new employees, just to ensure everyone has a good quality of life and that these positions are attractive. Other successes, and somebody's keeping a clock on me, correct? Other success, my good friend Judge Peffer and I always talked about the Rosenwald property out Maysville. And I'm incredibly excited of all the activity and projects going on. I'm incredibly excited about the opportunity to not only bring amenities out more into the county, but about the proposition of doing a Mason County Public Library annex out into a facility that's already built. Now, when you think about an asset there in Mays Lake, or the southern portion of our county, it will be well positioned to attract individuals up from those counties, our neighbors to the south. When you think about the next public library, professional meeting space, or even research lab, you don't really find till the southern loop of Paris. And so I think that's an opportunity to not only attract more individuals up to Mason County, but also bring more amenities to our citizens. We've seen a lot of success with projects with Good 360, Stober's expansion. The guys at G&J Pepsi are like machines. They just continue on and on. And then also at the beginning of the year, our Mitsubishi project that encapsulated a $50 million maxed out Department of Energy grant, hand in hand with a $640 million investment by Mitsubishi Corporate. I will get to the tail end of that here shortly, but incredible success moving forward. We're also seeing unbelievable projects and investments. Well, nothing happens as quickly as the judge or all of us want. We're seeing incredible investments with new investors in downtown. My good friend Shane Nome's here. Individuals such as Dan Markwell and others are picking up properties not only in downtown Maysville but across Mason County. And this is new investment coming into our community. And so we're very, very excited about that in the form of the old U.S. Bank building, our old White Manor, 41 West building, and many others. Everyone has seen the investments on top of the hill in the form of our Starbucks and the guys with drinker development. And can't we all applaud that Mason County and Maysville has become a large enough community that we can both support, corporate coffee and small business coffee as well. So, other amenities as well. The Frontier Housing projects, they're making investments across the board. I think Mayor will probably highlight a little bit about Hazelwood and how well that project is going, but also our Primary Plus building and our medical facilities as a whole, our medical industry as a whole. We're seeing investments in Tri-County Gastroenterology has commenced operations at our downtown Primary Plus building, and MetaView is hitting new patient loads. Seems like on a weekly basis. The more healthcare and health amenities that we can have here, the less times our citizens have to leave Mason County. I think next week we'll all come out and join the guys with the Sutton's Landing project with Welcome House as they kick that off, providing at least one tier of a solution for some of our housing options here in the community. We're very excited about their $15 million federal investment and looking forward to seeing their new innovative strategy where counselors will be living with the residents there, trying to better the lives of those that are a little bit less fortunate. When Mayor and I were just talking about, we're seeing a lot of activity even over in our East End with EDS. The guys with Super America are going to reopen. Coffee lovers rejoice. Apparently that's a big thing, Super America coffee. People really get excited about it. Even with that, I think I highlighted our costs grow and grow. City Manager Walker and I talked, I think 2.5 years ago, we ran 3 successful quarters of north of $1 million in investment from the state vis-a-vis federal grants about 3 years ago. Each quarter topping north of $1 million. Well, that has somewhat dried up a little bit in the support we're seeing now. Before I pour them out too much, we have gotten 2 county bridges funded for replacement in the form of South Ripley Road as well as Cabin Creek Bridge through our city-county bridge replacement program. And I think we will have some announcements later today on the Team Kentucky information that's coming out that will represent kind of investments, in our infrastructure, water and wastewater. South of that, everybody wants to know about our opportunities with technology campuses and data centers. And, that picture, while I'm a glass half full kind of guy, all those successes I just ticked off from PPI to EnviroFlight to even Mitsubishi. The bad news on Mitsubishi is you have a federal government now that won't even answer the phone. Department of Energy, we can't even get them to answer the phone. A new administration came in, canceled, whitewashed all of the previous grants. Now, they did re-award that grant, asked us to rewrite it in the name of reshoring of jobs, not so much green energy. We don't care, it's $50 million. We rewrote it, it was reapproved. Well, now there are some indications that that $50 million will be included in north of $750 million in federal support, to include $300 million in Western Kentucky, to the state of Kentucky. And so, you know, while I do not think that will happen, I mean, it is an increased chance. And without, you know, those promised funds, if I'm Mitsubishi Corporate, I take my $640 million and probably go to South America or Mexico, where inputs are 1/3 to 2/3 in the form of labor, parts, transportation, logistics. And so I'm a little bit concerned about that. I'm also concerned with all of the success in those projects we just talked about. Even with all of that work and paddling so hard to keep our heads above water, we still tick 0.5% population loss last year, 1% population loss the year before. That in no way is a reflection of what people think about our area, but it is a reflection of that urban-rural divide that you're seeing not only across Kentucky, but across America. And I, for one, am convinced, you know, we have to be a little bit more aggressive to retain our quality of life that we have here. I don't think anyone in the room would raise their hand and say, I foresee more state or federal assistance, a larger portion, coming to Maysville and Mason County in the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. And so with that said, we have been in discussions with a global top 10 company, U.S. headquartered. You can Google technology campuses and data center, or just Google global top 10 companies, and you will see these individuals' names. They are attracted to Maysville and Mason County because of our phenomenal EKPC Spurlock power plant and our proximity to the Ohio River. We have kind of laid out a plan that indemnifies us. Inflation catches everyone, but indemnifies us from issues such as cost increase with electricity. These guys have agreed to prepay for all their distribution, transmission, and electric production within a rural electric cooperative format that is basically a not for profit. And so the larger the industrial load that is on the system, at a minimum, the more stabilized your residential rates should be. I think you'll find that the PJM Commission came out last 2 days with a plan not only highlighting that as a best practice, but a strategy that they're going to be putting out across all 15 states that they represent. From water, an investment such as this not only puts us in the ball game for assets such as $50 or $60 million regional water treatment plants, when City of Maysville's water treatment plant is getting a little long in the tooth, no offense, but also represents, you know, in their agreement to not represent a financial hardship on the City of Maysville or Mason County, represents our opportunity to rebuild at a minimum the western half of Maysville utilities. I don't want to get too long-winded, but ultimately they represent a super conservative 400 six-figure jobs that also represents the post-World War II Brownings of this generation. And there will be the ability for our youth and young kids to be able to matriculate through high school, come out, make $65,000, $70,000 a year. Am I over?
Here.
Okay, you gotta tell me.
Good questions.
With a certification program, make even more, and then with a 2-year degree, make 6 figures. And I think as a community, as a local community, we've got to start steering to, I call it eating what we kill. And so we have to be a little more aggressive, because Uncle Sam's not gonna pony up a lot more money. And outside of this afternoon's announcements, I'm not expecting a lot more support from the state. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
You're good
You
for
did
questions
good.
now.
Do
Well,
I do
say, we'll
questions
do 'em at
now,
the-
or
you wanna
or
do 'em
at
at
the
the
end?
end?
Yes, okay, that's fine,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Questions now, or?
We'll save them to the
Oh,
end.
yes, ma'am.
That way we make sure
Hey,
we've
I-
got time.
I appreciate you
Hear
guys. I very greatly appreciate being your county judge executive. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the star of the show, Madam Mayor.
And even though Owen and I didn't necessarily discuss what we were going to cover today, there's a couple of things. I realized that he talked about quality of life, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. But one of the things that I've seen over the last year, going to like local issues conference or Kentucky League of Cities, is how fortunate that we are here in Maysville. And even though it limits the mayor's powers, a city manager type of government is really the best thing when it comes to cities this size. And there's consistency, there's strength in the departments, and no matter who's elected, those services that you're paying taxes for continue, and they continue at a level that is outstanding. And so I can't tell you how many horrid stories I've heard this year from towns that are just drowning in issues and problems because of that inconsistencies and stuff. So I kind of stand here today feeling very blessed that we have the systems that we do and that we enjoy that quality of life that we were talking about. And one other thing about that is when I first became mayor, and I helped with a few site visits where industries were coming to look at Maysville. And the questions I received as mayor weren't technical questions at all, of course, but they were about quality of life. They wanted to know about schools. They wanted to know about health care. They wanted to know about parks and arts and music. Do you have a dance studio? Those were the questions that I was getting from industry that was coming here to take a look at Maysville. And so the connection between quality of life and economic development became crystal clear. You can't have one without the other. And so it became very important. And though Owen gave, I think, an animal reference, I'm going to do a plant reference of a city is like a living plant. It has to be nurtured and fed and cared for. And if it's not growing, it's dying. And as he said, we have to move forward, we have to grow, we have to nurture those things if we want our community to thrive and be successful. And so one of the things that they asked about was playgrounds and outdoor activities when they were asking me quality of life questions. This is one of the examples of several playgrounds in Maysville that got new equipment this year. And it's looking after those little details, maintaining that. And it's important to our citizens who live here, it's important to people who visit, and it's important to industry or Shane, folks that bring their employees. You're looking for that kind of community. So that's important. And then the splash pads. I just put that in there because I wanted to share that the idea for splash pads downtown came from citizens' request. we had multiple ones from different people asking us to put splash pads for kids in the downtown Maysville. And Matt knew that we could get land and water grants, but it's a 50-50 match. And so this is where some of that partnerships with nonprofits and industry comes in to help out the city. And at the Chamber Women's Health Forum, we talked a little bit about the concept of the splash pads. The next morning, we got a call from International Paper wanting to submit that project to their national foundation to help with the funding. And we were awarded $100,000. And so between the work that the Buffalo Trace Area Development District did with the grant opportunities, we're waiting on a signature, but that project should be fully funded with those things. So great example of people coming together, and I've seen a lot of that this year, just getting people in the room, bouncing out ideas off of them, and getting things accomplished. One of the other things that they always ask me about is housing. And we've got a lot going on. Judge mentioned some of those, Sutton's Landing, Hayeswood. Hayeswood is actually meeting with the engineers today. It is all cleaned out. They've got one issue, the roof on the west corner. And so today they're discussing the options of how to address that. So things are moving well with Hayeswood. This is actually a layout of the Maysville Housing Authority's project. This is 50 units of the 75 that we're planning to replace up there. So this is phase 1. And as you can see, there's playground areas and community areas. It will be a beautiful layout. And that is another example of having people in the room. We had city folks, we had housing authority folks. We went and looked at some of the properties. Peter and the housing had been trying to find a solution for several years and kept hitting roadblocks. And Frontier Housing basically called to get a little advice from them. They came down, met with all of our group, and the idea of tax credits came. And so this is pretty all funded, well, through the majority of it through tax credits, and then Buffalo Trace Ad also help with some additional funding for it. So very excited about it, and because this is not government money, it is getting pretty far along the way. You got any updates for us, Peter?
Well, sad to say the last 30 days are on there, but yeah, we just had the deed finally finished with the park. We sold BDS, and so now it's
Moving forward?
yeah, going
All right.
forward.
And then I wanted just to bring you up to date on a couple of things. I know we've talked about these grants, and you all think they're never going to happen. And it's kind of like pulling teeth. But the TAP grant is the one that's the sidewalk grant. That's so on McDonald Parkway, there will now be sidewalks in front of the medical facility. And then coming down, there'll be a sidewalk in front of the Ledger so that people can get down to Limestone Landing via sidewalk and not be walking in the streets. And this is a perfect example. 2nd Street is used all the time for just walkers or people going to take care of business. And we have several spots where there are this kind of steps or broken sidewalks. And what people are doing are with motorized wheelchairs or strollers, they're going out in the streets. And it's just so dangerous. And I get calls from not only the people that are doing the walking, but also the drivers who've gotten scared because someone pulled out in in front of them. So this project has made it through, I think, all of the hurdles so that in the beginning of 2026, we should actually see some work happen with this project. And the next one is the FLAG grant. Again, that has been a long time coming, but most of the preliminary engineering is finished on that. And that goes from the boat launch all the way down to Limestone Creek, Limestone Landing. And it will have maintenance road and walk path on the riverside, kind of at the bottom of the rock that you see there. And it will have canoe and kayak launches. It will have boat slips both at Limestone Landing and up at the marina. And one of the things is at Hardeman's Landing, there will be a venue area and parking there, so some nice additions in that area. And then probably the biggest impact will be the mobile fuel trailer, because now people have to go somewhere else to get fuel for boats, but they will be able to buy fuel in Maysville. So this also could probably start mid-26. That's what we're kind of anticipating. And the nice thing about this, it started at 1.65 million award, but because it's taken so long, it's now 2.8. But they funded all of that, so good deal. And then Limestone Creek, you may have heard a lot about this. Several things going on there. One is the water quality, restoration of the creek, and then also flood control and a watershed study. And if you look, this is the rendering that the students from the UK did, but I'm going to step over there and kind of show. So this is 2nd Street, and this is behind us out here, and this is the library and behind there. And so when part of the reason that behind the library keeps filling in is because the culvert that goes under the viaduct was not installed properly so that the creek can flow naturally. And so the silt just keeps building back up. And so that's one issue we're working, hoping that the Corps of Engineers will help with. Rand Paul's office has helped a lot with that, and so staying on top of that. The other thing about flooding control, we're working with the Kentucky Department of Water, looking at basins to capture. And we've been meeting with the engineers on that every 2 weeks. It's been so interesting for me to see how they're working, looking at not only like 25-year flooding or 100-year flooding, but also is the river level low and the water flowing out, or is the river level high and we've shut the gates and we've got a pump? So they're looking at, the big picture and all the different scenarios. And they've kind of identified our first 2 basins. One will be behind here, right over here, and the other one will be around Wall Park. And then we have a couple other possibilities. But anyway, that's pretty exciting. When it's finished, it should be a beautiful area that everybody can enjoy and contribute to that quality of life. And of course, when you talk about successes, depending on which side of the coin you're on, I guess, the bridge project. But that is over $30 million, and thanks to Senator Steve West and Representative William Lawrence, and to our city departments folks that got all the pieces, and District 9, I have to give those guys a lot of credit over there too. Unfortunately, the bridge is going to be closed, and it might be closed. I know some people have reported a year, but it might be as much as 15 months because of the replacing the cables, and that's phase 1. Phase 2 will be painting and general maintenance on it, but at least we'll have our bridge. And that time will go by, and it seems rough. I've been getting emails from people, and they're calculating how many minutes it takes them to get to work. But, you know, in the long run, it's a good thing. Okay. And then Senator West and Representative Lawrence and the Buffalo Trace ad and our utilities department and our engineering department also secured over $25 million for the wastewater plant and 4 pumping stations for that. And so that was huge for us because it means that we don't have to raise sewer rates, and that helps our families. So, you know, these are big deals because it helps that burden as Judge was talking about. Okay. And there are several other projects going on. Matt took this picture for me the other day and sent it, and Katie was helping me with my PowerPoint, and she was like, that's a terrible picture. I said, that's exactly what I want. So that part of that facility was built in 1870, and part of it, the rest of it was built in the 1930s. And then the newer part that you don't see was built in the 1990s. And one of the first things I did as mayor was tour the water plant and the sewer plant. And it was an education. But it is not a want. A water plant is a need. And it's a need on both capacity and quality. Even, you know, we could sink money into this to help with the forever chemicals and the PFAS, but it would be millions of dollars, and we'd still have an old plant there. And and with economic development, I feel like we've lost a few opportunities because we didn't have the capacity for the industry that wanted to come. And so we just have to build it. So now it's figuring out where we can get that funds, and Matt and the engineering department and the public works, as well as Buffalo Trace Ad, are all working, and some engineering, to put this together, to take to Frankfurt, to talk to legislatures, governor, Department of Local Government, anybody that we can put a fry under to try to help get this funded. And then besides that, we have several other projects. The pumping station on 11 that fills the tank in Industrial Park 4 that then feeds out 11 to Maysville, the new line to Maysville, and there needs to be a tank before too long at Maysville. And then we need some infrastructure out by the Clark Barber. If you live on Jersey Ridge, you know we've had some problems out there, and that also serves International Paper and East Kentucky Power. So we've got a lot going on that needs to be done, but we're working toward all those projects. I just have 2 things I want to share left. One is about services. I see the city's role is providing services to our citizens for their tax dollars. And as I said earlier, our form of manager-type government allows for us to build strong teams where we have some great leadership in our departments, and we have top-notch here. And when I hear those other stories about what's going on, I just really appreciate how well that we're doing. And they are putting in place or improving systems, processes, so that no matter what happens, those things go on. And as Judge said, you know, the federal government shut down. The key for us is to just keep doing our job, getting those services, taking care of whether it's EMS or the police, And every month, we get reports, and I do not kid you, my stack of reports from departments is this thick. One person told me recently that we didn't have crime in Maysville. Well, you might think we don't have crime, but we do have crime, but you don't see it every day because our police department is addressing that and working on that. And so I think of them as like a well-oiled machine. Now, there's hiccups sometimes, and the clogs get caught, but all in all, they're doing a fantastic job. I am so impressed by their dedication, their hard work, and the attention to detail and how hard they try. So you should be very, very proud of your city team. And then lastly, as the judge talked about those prospects that might come or might not come, what is our role as a city? And Matt and the team, we feel like our role is being prepared for whatever. So if it comes, if this big project comes, what's the impact for the city? What's the big picture? As Rick would say, what's the big picture? And so we have been, or I won't say we, Matt and the departments have been working at, okay, what is that impact? What costs would we incur? And as Judge said, you know, then we have to get that cost covered, not by our citizens, but by those that want to come. And then beyond that is, what will that mean otherwise? You know, if a big project comes, it's not going to be just for that big project. There's going to be other things that come. There's going to be more restaurants. There's going to be hotels. They're going to need water. And so we're trying to put together, and we're working with the engineering team to put all the scenarios that might come our way as we can, to be as prepared as we can. And we know there's going to be a wind that's going to blow us off, but we will shift our sails, fall back and punt, and keep it moving forward. So I wanted you to know that your city is working to be prepared to address those things. And the bottom line is, for me, is the jobs and household incomes. And can families live here? And when I said a while ago about that plant growing and nurturing, all of our families have to be successful for us to have a quality of life, a living, growing city that's doing well. Judge, you want to join me?
Sure. What questions does anybody have? Yes, sir.
I appreciate what you all are saying about saving so much money for the county, and I was just wondering, are you all allowed to invest your savings, or how are you allowed to manipulate that money?
You have municipal options that are approved on a county level where, you do see nominal returns, but it's more in treasuries, things like that. One of the bigger impacts here, probably over the last 5 years, have been these muni, like a lot of times the FDIC requires us, just like they do any of you citizens, to insure portions of your money. Well, now there are collections out there that will it's a little bit more efficient, I guess. You know what I mean? But no, I mean, like I tried to put county reserves in Bitcoin once. Our treasurer got a little flustered, as well as our auditors. No, sir.
Same kind of goes for the city. We do look around for the best options. At times our reserves have been higher, and a lot of times they're committed but not spent yet. And it's like our 13 million reserves right now, they are all committed to infrastructure projects. But they're not spent, they won't be all spent in this year. And so we try to look at what those options are as well, to do the best that we can. Yes.
Mayor and Judge, I just want to say thanks. It's not, you all are doing things that the vast majority of us in here would never do. And thank you for what you do. You take the heat, I know you have, because I've talked to both of you in different scenarios, and it's admirable. So I want to thank you personally for everything you do for our city and for our county. Thank you, my friend.
Yes, sir. What other questions? Yes, sir.
Can you give us a broadband update?
Sure. We had the Charter Spectrum team in 2 weeks ago, I think, to fiscal court. Probably doing 65–70% build out. Right now you have this issue with pole rights, pole permissions, and in Mason County and Maysville, that spans predominantly Fleming Mason, RECC, Fleming Mason, and KU. The Charter Spectrum team have already not only paid for all equipment, but staff time or construction time as well as overtime to get these up. There's just a process. Now, the Fleming Mason Energy guys are running right at about 98–99% complete. KU's, a little bit further behind, but their system's a little bit bigger. But I think sometimes highlighting both on the same call sometimes brings a little urgency to the table. You know what I mean?
When will
Sure.
it be done?
When will it be
We
done?
expect it to be done and implemented.
Midsummer next year. Yes, sir. And, naturally it's a little bit behind.
Well, I mean, we talk about all this other stuff too, but I mean, broadband is just as important as water anymore. So
100%.
if who's gonna put a
It
business
is.
here if they can't get on the internet reliably?
100%.
And we look at it as a utility that we need to have available. And it's not going to be fast enough for me. My personal internet has not been good for the last couple of weeks. I'm not a very happy camper. But I can tell you, just out of Washington on 62, and of course, if you see the maps that they show, there are RDOF funds that cover certain areas, and Spectrum Charter will be different areas. But on where my mom's farm was, Windstream is with an RDOF funds is on the front end where the house is, and then I got a call. Spectrum was on the back of the farm going over to Butler's. So they're all working. That's been in the last week. So hopefully the momentum will, and we keep the pressure on. Matt gives them a call, and Owen does as well. So
And, it's not just Charter Spectrum either. Our friends with Limestone are doing a good job with expanding in places. Windstream has gone through yet another merger or acquisition. And so we're in communications with the new company on, things like licensing and stuff like that within the county too. For what other questions are out there? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Do you believe the grid has infinite resources?
Do I believe the
The
grid?
grid has
No, ma'am.
infinite resources.
has what kind of resources?
Infinite.
And the only reason why I say this is I look around this room and there's 6 receptacles here. So if I wanted to bring in 9 more electric roasters, you guys can't supply my demand. My concern with the data center campus that's coming here, that's going to use twice the amount of electricity as the city of Orlando and the cost that covered. I bring this information by talking to you by a 30-year-old biomechanical engineer, Jeff Martin, and also talking in Washington, D.C. with Greg Leroy of Good Jobs First.
Okay.
All right, so I have.
So what's the question though? I'm
So,
sorry.
but what my question is, if the data center comes here, and we all agree that
Sure.
our grid is not infinite,
Yep.
right? And so if it's not infinite, they come here and you boast of all these other businesses coming here, they're not gonna be able to plug in.
I'm glad you asked. I am grateful that
Yeah.
you asked. You know why?
That's right.
Because we're leveraging a lot of our partners that come here so much more than they're leveraging us. And again, we had a group here that brought in the Sierra Club, the sole individual group that was responsible for the decimation of DP&L, and DP&L leaving by a minimum, company stated, a decade early. That's 1,000 jobs to our region. Now, the Sierra Club and Miss Owens agreed with me that KU has probably outpunted their coverage in terms of investment as well as keeping up. And that's indicative of the PSC just now approving 2 new generation plants for these guys. Well, a rural utility like RECC, and that same consultant didn't realize that this was on an RECC powered project until we told them. But in sharing with them, RECC's proposed and 2-day away approved tariff, where any technology center or data center coming onto their service has to prepay for all their generation, transmission, everything, is our ability to leverage these guys to not only get the resources in here to power those guys, but also additional resources to power everything else. They won't just build enough generation to power themselves. And I don't know if it's as big as Orlando or not. Those figures aren't out publicly, but it will be immense. They take a lot of electric,
2.2
and they
gigawatts
take a lot of water. But by innovative project design, such as pulling cooling water from the Ohio River, which I've never seen run dry, and innovatively partnering with our traditional electric partners like RECC to leverage these guys to not only power themselves, but bring additional capacity into not just Maysville, Mason County, but also Northeast Kentucky, is a pretty innovative solution. So thank you for asking that. And in addition to that, providing a lot of career sustaining, family sustaining, high quality, high paying jobs.
Was the data center company okay with coming into an area that uses a rural core as electric?
Yes, sir.
They actually
They're
prefer
attracted
that.
to it.
They're probably, you guys, attracted to that as much as they are in a big power plant.
Well, and
More.
again, you have to remember, it's a whole industry, just like the
Yeah.
car industry. You've got buy here, pay here guys who might have 5-foot setbacks and maybe don't do things right, indicative in Owen County and other places. But you also have what I feel like is the apex of the industry, the guys that everywhere they go, they are globally awarded for their use of conservation, their use of water and environmental stewardship, as well as the most jobs and career dense of all of the players in that industry.
During the time of deregulation, the 16 co-ops throughout Kentucky played a very important role in Kentucky not being deregulated.
100%.
And that's a big plus for Kentucky.
Yep. Now look, I get it. I had my good friend Ron Bailey, 6, 7, 8 months ago, helped me with a research project when in 1947 there was a train that came through. That's how they do economic development visits back in the late 40s. DuPont literally parked a train right outside of Dover with all of their 16 executives on their board getting off the train. The mayor of Maysville was down there, the county judge executive and some other executives, and talked about, hey, what an investment would look like in northeastern Kentucky. DuPont purchased those 900 acres to a lot of hand-wringing and nervousness there within the community. 4 years later, my distant cousin, Dr. Harry Denham, led a group that was opposed to what became RECC and a proposed 3 power plant plan when DuPont sold that acreage to them. But article after article DuPont's gonna make all our babies be born naked, and, we're gonna have all these issues, I think elections and having local leadership, you have to entrust sometimes that, I live here too, I promise you that, and I would never do anything to harm our community, but I, for one, am convinced, unless we're prepared to just travel away to Millersburg 2.0, we aren't a community large enough, we can start stiff arming opportunities. Yes, ma'am.
I know there have been at least a few occasions when people in the community have had the chance to meet with public officials and representatives from the developers
Sure, yes,
to
ma'am.
ask questions, get answered. When is the general public going to get that same opportunity?
Actually, we're going to be talking to, there is a process for everything. And so
Now,
we're
hang
gonna-
on, I'm not talking about the public hearings and the testimony.
Sure,
Because those are comments.
Yep.
That's not questions.
sure,
And that's what I'm asking about.
okay,
Tyler McHugh in July
yep.
told me those would happen, and they haven't.
I'm glad you brought that up. We've actually, we have a group here, we love Mason County, a couple other individuals that we have brought in under the premise that they are representative of a group of concerned citizens. 5, 6, Derek, the Morans, a whole, a
I'm
whole bunch
talking
of them.
about
Let me
public
finish though,
forums.
if I can finish. And for no less than 8.5 hours over the last 4 weeks, down to fiscal court. I had the RECC guys in, I had people talking on behalf of the project, and everyone at the end and the conclusion of those meetings always states that they feel a lot better about the project. I would imagine, to answer your question specifically, I would imagine first quarter next year is when these folks will announce their names. If
I'm
I
not,
pray we
excuse me
get
just
to
a
that
second.
point. Yes, ma'am.
I'm talking about public forums where people can express concerns and ask questions.
Sure.
So that they can decide for themselves
Yes, ma'am.
what they think of it.
That'll be in the
We
next.
don't know enough yet to make those decisions. And I'm talking about before a zoning amendment gets proposed.
That will be in the next 2 months, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And the zoning amendment is in process.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
And these meetings need to happen before that.
Okay, thank you.
I have one other question.
Sure.
And this is what I've learned by, again, talking to Jeff Martin.
Yeah, sure. I know Jeff.
I don't, and it was something I never understood about our electrical system. So do you understand how our electric is auctioned off and sent out of state?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, so with that being said, those shares have increased in the last year tremendously.
Yes, ma'am.
The second part of that is, when they do that, renting of the shares, there's no way that they can calculate the VFW XYZ shares, the courthouse used XYZ shares, the Board of Criminal used XYZ shares. So those ratepayers are going to pay, this is where this increase comes from, this is my biggest concern with this.
Sure.
This
I
is
get
where
you.
this rate increase is going to come from.
No, ma'am, so
That's-
RECC has joined the PJM as a backup to their generation. It is a 13-state cooperative.
With the auction rate right now, we're going to pay for that auction rate in 2028. Because it's at 275, and we're gonna pay for that. It's gone from 2-digit numbers now to 3-digit numbers. It's a concern, and that is, again, it doesn't
Sure.
matter where the data center is.
Yep.
It's
agreed.
across the it's gonna be, we're all going to pay for this in the end.
So back to your point though, do you see anyone ever put down their cell phone? Do you see anybody ever not running their toaster in the
We're
morning?
addicted to, no,
But I
well,
mean-
yes, I do see people not running their toaster.
Well, you know what I mean. You know what I mean though. But so we're all
Yeah.
agreed that technology's
Yeah.
coming.
In
I
Louisiana,
think we're better positioned to capture the jobs and the opportunity that comes.
right,
As well as through innovative project design,
Right.
ensure that these guys not only power themselves, but gain the extra capacity by us leveraging them for our future growth. Thank you for your question.
Yeah.
Yes,
The
ma'am.
state of Louisiana has shut down on their electric. You're told when you can cook and clean.
I want to say, we'll do one last and then we'll wrap this up so everybody can get back to work, okay?
I got a quick question about the electric. As far as the data center goes, like when it goes, you said that we'll be paying with a tariff.
Yes, sir.
We'll be paying it upfront. So when it comes to the billing, like we have residential accounts, we've got business accounts. So will they be in with the business or will they have a total?
No, the tariff creates its own technology center, data center, technology campus, data center tariff. And so vis-a-vis, REC, the rural cooperatives, if you and I have discussed, are not for-profit entities. KU, of course, is a for-profit, nothing wrong with either. I love my friends on either side, but in a not-for-profit entity, the larger load coming in on the technology campus data center side, just by simple math, at a minimum, stabilizes residential rates. Should we, as a system, ever have additional needs, which we won't because we're forcing them to not only build the generation but transmission, we have PJM to fall back on, as well as their ability to keep rates low because RECC basically just sells excess, because we've got Spurlock, they've got another generation station down in Somerset, that they're kind of making additional revenues by selling into that PJM market. But just as it stands alone, in a not-for-profit utility, the large industrial load, the large what we'll call now technology campus data center load, at a minimum, stabilizes residential rates.
So it will be in its own category aside
Yes, sir.
from residential and
Yes, sir.
business?
Like when we did PPI, when we did EnviroFlight, stuff like that, KU and RECC subsequently paid for a lot of their poles, a lot of their much smaller scale, but had to pay for a lot of theirs, both KU and RECC paid to install that. They knew they were getting it on the tail end, and these guys at a rate, it'll still be a regular rate. They know they'll recoup that, but they're also saying, hey, if you want to hook on, you've got to build all your generation. So ultimately what that'll mean is 200 plus more jobs in the EKPC Spurlock generation world, which have been traditionally fantastic jobs for our community and region, but that they'll also capture on the table. Thank you for your question.
All right, guys, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Owen, Mayor, thank you for coming. Everybody have a great day.